You can't beat the classics.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of You Can't Beat the Classics podcast. We hope that wherever you are, you're enjoying this day, whenever that may be. Who knows? But we hope you're enjoying it. I'm John, as usual, and I'm always joined by these two fine gentlemen that share my interest in films and interests alike, Mike and George.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. All right, we got another movie to talk about with you today. This time, it's one of George's picks. And today, we're going to be talking about 2000's The Patriot, directed by none other than Roland Emmerich. So I think Roland Emmerich is one of the, I think since we've been back, the more notable director that we've done so far. I think we're definitely familiar with his work, The Patriot, uh, being one of those movies. This, like I said, this was one of George's picks. George, really quickly, what made you want to choose The Patriot and want to talk about it?
I thought it was one of the better action movies of the 90s and early 2000s, and we're getting into that point now where it's almost about 30 years old, so it's definitely if it's not a classic now, it'll never be. So it's time to, and with Heath Ledger being gone and all that stuff, it just felt like a good movie to throw in there for a classics conversation.
This personally, for me, I've only seen this maybe one time. Not when it came out. Definitely after it came out. Um, I never really had too much of an attachment to this film. I like this film. Don't get me wrong. I think despite we're going to get into it definitely, but I think what I was reading about one of the big criticisms about this film is even though it was having positive reviews at the time, I think it's very heavily criticized for not being historically accurate.
Yeah. I will say a lot of the strategic talks that were had about where the placement of the British is and where the American lines are weak and stuff like that was historically accurate, but the stuff that happened around the events of this movie was very fictional. So
I think one thing I was reading was it's harshly criticized by the British because of its what they put as their anti-British sentiments of the film. The fictionalized portrayal of British soldiers and the atrocities that they commit in this film. Um, but we're going to get into what exactly happens in the film uh, as we go through the program. Um, I just wanted George really quick to share what made him want to choose this. Um, Mike, do you have the financial figures
I do.
for the movie?
So released July 2nd, 2000. That was the opening weekend. Budget estimated at 110 million. Opening weekend was 22.5 million. Gross U.S. and Canada was 113, and gross worldwide made 215 mil. So it made its money back for sure.
Yeah, I'm wondering. It made 110 million. I'm wondering what that would be now with inflation. So let me see what that would be really quick.
I mean, it's still not like an Avatar budget or anything like that, right?
Uh, That's almost a $200 million movie today.
I mean, if you think about it, though, a lot of this stuff was practical. Tons of explosions, lots and lots and lots of
Yep.
people. The battle scenes were really well done. Um, I mean, I thought I mean, sometimes you look at old movies and you're like, yeah, I don't know if it was really like that. But this one, you look at it and you're like, yeah, that was probably how it was. They did a really good job with sets and everything else.
No, it definitely felt like, by the way the film looked, it definitely felt like it looked authentic. Like you
Yeah,
definitely felt like you were in the American Revolution throughout.
yeah.
So how about we just dive right into what we plot
Okay.
here?
Yeah. So sorry, my mic was all messed up. I don't know if you guys can hear me now, but
Yeah.
um, it ranked like 600th all time for opening weekends, and it ranked. It's in comparison with Pirates, it competed with Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl,
Okay.
like numbers wise, not time wise. Obviously, Pirates came out way later, but like that's just kind of the comparison to what it was. So I mean, all time for when it released, it's a top 100 movie by the numbers. It released Independence Day weekend, so
Yep.
like it's financially it had pretty solid legs, and I wish we had like a way to measure blockbuster rentals today, because this, I guarantee this is one of the most rented movies of all time,
Yeah.
right next to The Gladiator and possibly Blow.
I mean, I could for sure say that that's the first time I saw it. It was rented.
Same.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
But I hate that we don't have that number in front of us, because I would love to see the blockbuster numbers. Where are the BNs? The blockbuster numbers, baby. The
yeah.
BBNs. How's that?
Well, I mean, so it got nominated for 3 Oscars.
Didn't win any.
No, but best cinematography, best music, and best sound. So like when I
Mm,
say like it brought me back to like yeah, this probably pretty close to what it was in 1776 because the sounds, like, the war sounds and all that stuff, but like the stuff outside of those scenes, like the smaller stuff where it's like they're just like walking through a tobacco field or they're drying tobacco. It's like something that they would have been doing, like a regular task back in the day.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
bro, legit. Like, yeah. I know it's not. I know it's not. And I know we're gonna dive into this, but it's not like historically accurate for the war stuff. And maybe the British weren't that
Raping and
harsh on the
pillaging
American.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they weren't like that, but like you had the vibe right out the gates that this is like an old movie. Like he's building a chair, or they're picking the fields and everything like that. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
and like you don't even get into the war stuff until like 15 minutes into the movie. So it's like this is a war movie, but it's not really. It's more of a family movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, yeah, Mike, you mentioned the music really quick. The music was by John Williams. You can't go wrong with him.
Nah, I mean the
He's
original score got an Oscar nomination, and
yeah,
honestly, like it's been a while since I've seen this movie, but when I was watching it now,
yeah.
I was like, the music is actually pretty dope, and
Hmm.
it like it adds to it. It doesn't detract, it doesn't distract. It's just it's good, flows.
would you, before we dive in, would you compare? This is, I would still count this as like a 90s movie, right? Because it's 2000. The only other like memorable 90s war movie that I can think of would be like, for the time, would be like Pearl Harbor,
Saving
Saving
Private
Private
Ryan.
Ryan,
Yeah.
and maybe you could find one or two more, right? But like those movies were like the war was truly the movie, right? Like Saving Private Ryan had its subplot for Private Ryan, but like when you think of Saving Private Ryan, you think of the war, right? Like that big battle scene at the end. Same with Pearl Harbor, you think of them dropping the bomb. This movie, I mean, I think maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but I think of Heath Ledger's character the entire time. Like
Mm.
that story arc was amazing. Anyway,
I mean, I really in my review, and we'll get to this too, I know, but I called it Braveheart with muskets.
Yeah.
oh, there's plenty of Mel Gibson one-liners that I
Yeah.
have written down.
I mentioned Braveheart too in my
Yeah.
review because I
So,
think
I
this.
mean, if I'm gonna compare it to anything, it's not a war movie, but it's Braveheart, which is truly the story of like one man
Dude,
defying a country, right?
this movie could have been renamed Mel Gibson just working shit out.
Yeah.
This whole
Yeah.
movie, like it opens with him just tuning up a fucking chair. And it looks like it's the 9th chair he just absolutely fucking tuned up. And he's just
He's not a good
working
furniture
some
maker, but he
shit
tries, all
out.
right?
Yeah. He's Geppetto Light.
Yeah.
All
All
right.
right.
Here
Speaking
we
of
go.
speaking of building chairs, let's watch the trailer for not Braveheart, for the Patriot right now.
For Braveheart 2.
Let's check it out. Not a bad trailer.
No?
No, it definitely sells the movie
I think
pretty
like
well.
the techno-ish like BDM music is kind of weird.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like everything was like penny whistles and drum lines and stuff like that during the movie, and then it was like do do
90s.
do do do.
Well, John Williams definitely didn't do the music for the trailer.
Again, 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, 90s. You got to have that voice too.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
I wasn't ready. The blockbuster voice.
Yeah. But all right, we might as well dive into what the movie has going on plot wise. All right, so I think again the historical inaccuracies, and I'm no historian, so if I get something wrong, I'll try to not get things wrong here, just the best of my knowledge. The movie has it set in South Carolina, 1776. Um, Literally the U.S. is like not even a country at this point, but it's trying to become one. And we're introduced to Mel Gibson's character. I think his name is Benjamin Martin. Is his name, and he has this big family, 7 children, and it's a simpler time because they're super excited to get the mail.
Postage writer.
Yeah, we're following the mailman or whatever at this time. The kids are well, Ben Martin is trying to build a chair unsuccessfully.
It's like his
they're not
8th chair.
He's tried to make quite a few chairs, but yeah, they're
Just
not
working
opening.
some shit out, you know.
They're not opening the mail until father is ready. They say. Yeah, I mean, we're introduced to his family here. We see a super young Heath Ledger. My God, rest
Yeah.
in peace to him. Like he can't be more than you know. I don't even know. Not even 20. He doesn't even look.
He
Probably
had to
younger
have
than
been
that.
20.
Maybe around that age. Maybe I don't know. He looked way younger.
He definitely looked super young. He was
Yeah.
he was 21.
Okay, I was pretty close. Yeah, he plays Gabriel. So the son of Ben Martin. Um, we see that he's called to Charleston, South Carolina, for some type of meeting down there. So a little bit of rioting going on. You really see the divide here that was
Wait, he
happening.
wasn't called down for just a meeting. It was the Continental Congress.
Yeah,
It was
I
the
didn't remember.
meeting.
I didn't
It
remember
was
the name of it. Yeah, that's the big thing. Yeah.
yeah. They were prepping to go to war. They were voting on whether or not they'd go to war.
Yeah, so I mean, you see that it's a very, even though there's a war going on, it seems like a very peaceful time as far as his family goes. And this part, you really see the divide that was happening in deciding to even fight England for their independence. Like Ben Martin was very opposed to going to war with England, because he was doing fine. As his family was safe, he was safe, he was kept away from it. So I see why he was opposed to it. However, his son wants to enlist, and he does. Um,
Yeah. Uh, it's strange though because he was so opposed to war because his wife had passed away, so he didn't want his kids to be fatherless. Is essentially what he said, because he
yeah,
knew pretty much if he went to war that it was almost certain that he was going to die. Um, but he had seen soldiers and stuff like that that he had served with before, and they promised to take care of his son's character and keep him out of the battles and such. But doesn't look like they did a very good job at that.
And I mean,
yeah,
he makes pretty good points too. about like why they shouldn't go to war, like because the Declaration of Independence wasn't drafted or signed yet. So it's like, okay, so are we going to go to war to remove one tyrant to replace him with 13 other tyrants in each colony? Like, what are we doing here? And no one had an answer. They were just like, the cause. The
Yeah, what
cause.
I think his exact quote was, "It's worse. It's worse. Is it something like that? Is it worse to have one tyrant 3,000 miles away or 3,000 tyrants 1 mile away?" They
Yeah,
said he said something like that.
and that we can relate to nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was way ahead of his time. He's the
Yep.
creator of the Facebook.
not Zuck.
Not Zuck, just the Gib. Melly Gibbs.
But yeah, like I said, he made his points during that he was opposed to the war. His son enlists anyway. And Charleston falls pretty. I mean, I forget what the time period is, but we see that it falls pretty quickly to the British, and they all have to get out of there. Heath Ledger ends up coming back home injured from the fighting, and with the war literally going on right in the front yard.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
pretty
I know,
wild to me.
right?
I'm
Yeah,
curious to know like how accurate that is. And
I
like
mean,
people are just like
probably
out on their
pretty
porches watching the war happen.
it'd be so much easier to watch though if you had a rocking chair.
I know. Come on, Mel.
if only I had made a chair in time. But I think after that battle dissipates, I think the Mel Gibson and Ben Martin and his family are tending to like the injured uh, um, American soldiers, even some of the British soldiers he was taking in, because they're still, the British are still in charge here, so he's even helping them. But suddenly this colonel shows up, and he shows absolutely no mercy when he shows up. Uh, Gabriel Martin ends up being taken. They set fire to the house. They
And the farm.
kill off, and this is one of the inaccuracies that they mentioned. They kill off the wounded American soldiers, and one of Ben Martin's sons decides to rebel, to rescue Gabriel, and the colonel kills his son. And we see that as the triggering moment for him to say, you know what, it's personal now. Now we're going. I'm going to war.
So like the one note I had on all this, this colonel and Mel Gibson's character have such like a strong hatred for each other over the course of this movie that like
Mm.
the things that the colonel is doing to like spark rage just get like completely asinine in my opinion. Like they just go so wild, and I can understand why British people were pissed off because he's like an entire town of women and children just like kill out, or like the wounded soldiers and like the house and the kids and kill everything. I'm just like that's
So
wild.
so this
But like,
his
doesn't it remind you of like Rick and Shane from The Walking Dead? Like
yeah.
Mel
Very
Gibson being
quickly,
Rick.
very quickly. This is Colonel William Tavington, played by Jason Isaacs.
Yeah, the perfect villain, by the way.
Yeah,
He
Yeah,
is
but
the
like
perfect
the
villain.
heavily fictionized character.
if you remove the like American aspect from it, he was so right. He was right. Why would you let all those people live? Like, yes, kill them all. Like in the beginning. Like they're at war. Like today, no way we're like if this was Modern Warfare 2, the movie, no way you're letting all those fucking people live. And
Yeah,
especially with dispatch orders, it's like,
but
no, you're
back
all
in the
dead.
day though, they had like the courtesy of war and
Oh,
like
we're gonna get to that. The
I
rules
know,
of
yeah.
war can blow me. Like,
So like they had
yeah.
all that stuff like where you can't aim for the drummers and you can't aim for
Yeah.
the
We're gonna
colonels.
stand 10 feet away from each other and we're gonna fire guns. Like, who the fuck
Uh,
that's why the war part of this movie is like doesn't do anything for me, because it's like, yeah, we have 20 people, you have 1,000. Yeah, we're gonna hide in the fucking woods, and we're gonna kill you in the woods.
Yeah,
Or we're
that
gonna
was
hide in the fields and kill
I
you in the
wrote that
fields.
I wrote that in one of my notes, part of my notes here. I wrote fighting was so weird back then. Everyone just keeps marching knowing they're going to get shot or blown to bits.
But
Yeah.
like it makes the movie makes the Americans seem like they outsmarted the British, but this is like sibling rivalry run 101. I can't beat you in a fight, so I'm going to hide behind the couch and then jump you with a pillow, and then when you attack, I'm going to scream mom. Like, right? Like these are basic survival instincts. I don't know.
Yeah, the courtesy of war.
The war, if you're watching the Patriot for action, it's limited. I think. Like there's plenty of action, but it's not like the
It's not
you
like
get
Lord
an
of the Rings.
yeah, you get an hour in and you still haven't seen an epic battle. You've seen like people hiding in the woods
I
and then
disagree with that.
shooting.
I disagree with that. I think one of the best fight sequences in this
Is the
movie.
end. The end.
Well, the end is like the big battle, right? Like the culmination of the whole movie. But is when when he goes
Well,
to
let's
free
not get ahead,
Gabriel.
but
I know
yeah.
that's one of the best fight sequences in this whole movie.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
again not epic, right? Like it's not like Saving Private
I thought it was
Ryan.
pretty
They're
epic.
holding down the fucking
One
bunker at the
dude,
end of the movie.
a 13-year-old and a 9-year-old took out 20 soldiers.
This is my favorite part of the movie too, when
Yeah.
they're picking them off and they're hiding in the woods and they're picking off these British soldiers. I love this part.
This 13-year-old is sharpshooting,
Yeah.
like officers off the back of horses. It's wild.
But when you look at it, they're 10 feet away. They're not far away.
And they're not close. They're
I mean,
not.
it's not.
Like,
don't get me wrong. Better shots than I am, but like,
yeah. I mean, I was
especially
gonna
with
say,
those
yeah.
guns.
Send a 13-year-old today into a war. Come on.
Yeah, that's
No,
not an
no.
easy. Yeah.
But again, they were trying to like abide by the. They couldn't. Anyway, it was impressive, but was it epic? No, it wasn't epic.
I thought it was pretty epic.
It's baller for sure.
I mean,
but
this
it's
is the
not like
first time when you peel back some layers on Mel Gibson's characters, and you actually see like
what
his anger, his fury, like how furious he can be, how he loses himself in this moment while he tried to get away from it.
I disagree. It's the second time because he fucked up that chair in the beginning of the movie, and now, like with Gabriel's life on the line, he's gonna go fucking take some more rage out on this fucking dude's dead body. Like this
Yeah,
dude got fucking
right after Thomas gets killed too.
Yeah.
yeah. Thomas got the glack, and then this dude got Cherokee axed over and over.
I know this movie's super violent. I know that. I watched I watched, the actual version, I believe, the first time. I saw, holy crap, I said this is violent. But now I watched the quick YouTube version where it's kind of
Oh, they cut it out.
where it's
Yeah, they cut out
it's
a whole bunch.
a lot more tame. I know what happens, but I was like, yeah, usually
Like I
it's a
said,
lot more gruesome than this.
this movie should have been called Mel Gibson Just Working Shit Out. Because like this is the second time of like 7 times where Mel Gibson's just Wolverine, just taking his anger out on people.
Yeah.
I love it.
And to go back to your like this version of the movie versus like the cinematic version, like in some of the bigger battles, they just show cannonballs rolling through things and like taking people's legs off at the knee and stuff. And they didn't do that in the YouTube version. They cut that out.
Right.
So
yeah. So yeah, this is one of my favorite parts of the movie is when he takes his sons with him to rescue Gabriel Martin.
yeah.
And his sons are picking him off, one at a time, with like pretty much pinpoint accuracy here. He takes out this last guy with a hatchet and just wails on him just nonstop as he's dead. So Gabriel Martin ends up being rescued. He's rescued, but he ends up going back out to join the Continental Army anyway.
Yeah.
Like I think
he gets in the argument with Mel Gibson's character at this point, and he's like, "I'm going back," and he said, "I won't let you." And then, essentially, like rather than fighting with him, he lets him go, but he follows him, right?
Yeah, I think Ben Martin's hope here was that I think Gabriel was just going to be done with fighting, but I think if anything, this makes him want to fight more.
Yeah.
And we see another example of a battle here where this is where I had mentioned that I thought the fighting was just so weird back then.
Yeah.
But I think Ben Martin sees here that he's after seeing these guys get slaughtered, he decides, I got to become part of this. Um, so yeah, I mean, so he ends up joining the battle here. We cut over to the colonel's not actually he's not the one in charge. There's somebody above him, um, who I can't remember his exact name. I think General. I don't remember his name. I know they always just go, "Yes, my lord," and all that. And
Cornwallis.
uh,
Yeah.
was it?
Cornwall.
Oh, was it Cornwall? Okay, yeah, Cornwallis. Um, yeah, we know that but he's not the worst guy. The colonel is established as being the worst guy.
Right.
We see some disagreements between those two. Um, this is actually I forgot that this guy was in the movie. He was the reverend at the church. I was like, wait a minute, that's Odo from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I was like,
Yeah.
I totally forgot he was in this. I was surprised to see that.
Listen,
This is where
the name of the movie is The Patriot. The Reverend is the Patriot.
Oh yeah.
He is. The Reverend is the baddest motherfucker on all this
uh,
shit.
that
Oh,
guy's
dude,
such
I
that
just
guy's
love
such a
like
good
right before
actor.
this part, they're going around and they're like recruiting people. No, like right at this part, they're going around and recruiting people, and they go into the church. And first, the reverend's like, "Get out of here! Like these people are trying to seek help from God and all that stuff." And then he ends up walking out
Yeah,
with his rifle out of the church to go join the chorus after they were done persuading him.
Just
yeah.
the absolute goat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was good. One of my favorite characters.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Sneaky
Gabriel goes to the church to enlist people. I think Ben Martin goes
to a
more so
bar.
to the right place to recruit.
Yeah, and he brings the Frenchman with him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the Frenchman is sneaky, like one of my favorite characters, just because he's like the comic relief.
Yep.
Because they're just pretty much ragging on France the whole time, and he's like, "Yeah," which I thought was really funny.
There was another actor that was in here that was I thought, oh my god, he was in here too. He was the character of John Billings, played by Leon Rippey. He just has that very notable voice where I'm like, yeah, I know him. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
he's a good actor.
sad how that
Uh,
one ends.
yes,
Mm.
yeah, that one's a tough one.
That one was tough.
Um, but him and his son pretty much form this militia. They're not technically soldiers, but like they can come and go as they please. So it's more so to put this militia together to try to take out as many of these redcoats as possible. And we see here that none of the redcoats are safe. Like as long as they got
Yeah,
like like we just saw groups of British soldiers just walking about minding their own business, and they just get bombarded.
yeah. They're
Like
like, "This is the Royal Highway." What makes it easier to find your stuff, then, doesn't it?
yeah. We just keep seeing redcoats just constantly getting picked off. We also learn that this militia is coming together to fight together, but they have very different ideas on what they should be doing.
Yeah,
Like you have like one half that says, we shouldn't be as bad as them and kill off, prisoners of war. And then you have the other half saying, "Oh, we got to kill it. They got red coats. We got to kill everybody."
yeah.
Uh,
Which is like a struggle between um, Heath Ledger's character and Mel Gibson's character, because Mel Gibson's just like kill them all, and Heath is like, well, there's no honor in fighting that way. And this goes back to like what we were just talking about, like the honors of war and stuff like that. That
yeah.
back then, anyone who surrendered, you'd give passage, right? And like I guess today it might still be frowned upon, but like it's a very different situation these days, you
hmm
know.
Fuck them.
We know where
Like,
George stands.
Yeah, what are we doing here? Like, realistically, the American Revolution was a finite amount of colonists versus an infinite amount of British. And it's like, it was a
Seemingly
numbers
infinite, yeah.
game. Just fucking, what are we doing? They were surrendering? Cool. See ya. And I agree, because then the Frenchman breaks down and is like, they didn't have pity for us when they burned, my daughter and wife on a boat alive.
Mm,
Like, they didn't have pity. They didn't abide by the rules of war. I know it's all dramatic effect to make the Americans look like the good guys and the British look like the bad guys. But fuck them.
The
Just fuck
Americans
them.
didn't look like the good guys though. They just killed a whole bunch of people that surrendered. The problem is like you see this struggle where they're trying to portray that they're trying to play by the rules of war, right? But there's just like one psychopath who doesn't want to, and that's like the
Right.
big friction point, and that's the villain in this movie, right?
But this
They have,
is scene number 3 now where Mel Gibson's working some shit out because he whipped out the Cherokee Tomahawk again and started fucking cutting up the British. Like, this dude, I'm telling you, this is just one giant therapy session for Ben Martin. Just one big therapy session.
well, his entire family's being ripped apart one person by one person here, so like can't really blame him.
Speaking of which, I believe the next scene is where we finally find out what the fuck Ben Martin did at Fort Wilderness.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a matter of time before these guys get jumped, which they did. And yeah, Ben finally talks about what happened at Fort Wilderness.
Dude, when he's describing it, like they didn't have to show any of it. I could picture all of it.
Right? That was so they were nominated for cinematography, and I think that right there was like perfect. It's just him, melancholy, no emotion, no remorse, really, no anger, just melancholy, telling the story of how he butchered people by fingers, toes, tongues, eyes.
Sending their heads on pallets and their fingers and tongues in buckets.
Meanwhile, he's just building bullets out of his dead son's toys. Like, get
lead toys, by the way.
Yeah.
So fucking ice cold, just working shit out. Scene number 4 of Ben Martin just working shit out.
Yeah. When I heard him like describing that, I was like, this is. And so like the last time I saw this, I would say is probably 10 or 15 years ago.
Yep.
And the more I pick up on now, just because I understand the situation better. It's just like how gruesome this movie actually is compared to how I thought it was just a cool war movie back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Goes to show too, like they didn't we have quick ways of killing people now with bombs and machine guns or what have you. They didn't have that back then. They had the one-shot rifles, and then they had knives and axes. They had your occasional cannon. It's like, okay.
Yeah,
you kind of had to get up in it.
Yeah, I feel like if you died quickly by one of those methods back then, you were lucky. Because otherwise, I don't think nobody was dying quickly from those bullets or from those, knives or and all that stuff. Yeah, no way.
Oh,
cannons.
God, no.
So I have to ask though, because like this part of the movie is like one of my favorite parts of the movie. Is this the part of the movie where Gabriel starts inquiring about the girl that he had seen earlier in the movie?
Yeah.
And then they sew him into like a potato sack.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and his teeth get inked.
Yeah, because she got him back for the joke, right? But like, I forget what they called it, but they had a name for that thing, and
it's like a body sack.
I want to look up if that's really a thing.
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing. I was like, what the fuck is that?
They just sewed a sack onto him so he couldn't be promiscuous with her, I guess. But it's hilarious.
Is that what that was?
Yeah.
It's like a chastity belt.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, what the? I'm like, why is he just willingly being mummified here? It's like, I actually didn't realize that.
It's so funny.
Yeah. It was more of a thing for if you were courting a woman and you were engaged to keep you from yourself. I ended up Googling it.
Did you?
And
I was curious to know if it was real.
yeah, it was a real thing, but it wasn't meant like Gabriel and her were just like kind of talking. They weren't,
Oh, so they
they
over
weren't really.
exaggerated the use of it.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
but
hilarious.
it was a thing.
It's
Oh
hilarious.
yeah, I see it right here. Yeah, it's called a bundling. Used bundling bags.
Yeah.
Courting couples use bundling bags to spend the night together. Um,
Could you imagine?
I couldn't imagine just
You meet this
laying
girl
there.
on Tinder, you gotta show up with with a bundling
Well,
bag.
you gotta imagine too. He's
That
probably not in clothes. He's probably like naked because that's what he's gonna sleep
yeah,
in, right?
bags, boards, bolsters, and even pillows were used to separate couples. Each was more of a mental barrier rather than an absolute physical barrier. Although there were extreme measures such as sewing the bag closed were probably taken by some families.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
that's what they showed.
that's why I didn't even pick up on that.
It's so funny, dude. When as soon as I saw that, I was like, "This is wild."
What a weird thing. I was like, yeah, okay, now I know. But
Doesn't even
yeah.
seem worth it.
I mean, maybe it put the parents' mind at ease or something like that. I don't know. So anyway,
Yeah, but you
I
Yeah.
had
must
to
have
bring that
slept
up
like
because I thought it
shit.
was such a weird part of the movie.
You probably sleep terribly though.
I don't
Oh,
Like
know.
I don't know if I
definitely.
could. I don't know if I could sleep like that.
Sometimes I sleep amazing in like sleeping bags.
Yeah,
Well,
but
like
it's
yeah,
not
that too.
sewn
Like you can't.
shut. Like what happens
Like
if you have to take a piss in the middle of the night?
Just let it go, man.
oh yeah, good. Yeah, like you just gotta either hold.
For real though.
You can't hold it because you can't sleep if you hold it.
Yeah, and you're not comfortably getting out of bed in a fucking knapsack.
Yeah, they didn't think this stuff through.
No, they didn't.
Either
They
way,
had
though.
one objective on the mind. Just a human
Uh,
condom.
all right. Well, it's besides the giant prophylactic that they have. he, ben, well, ben, ben goes to the base of the British bearing a white flag because I think when they got jumped, some of the men from the militia were being held prisoner there.
Yeah.
So he meets with Cornwallis
By the
to
way,
arrange.
best part of this scene is when Cornwallis goes into his office and he has the chair upside down and he's looking at the bottom of it to figure out how he didn't make his right.
Just working shit out. Scene number
Yeah,
5.
working shit out.
Mel Gibson just working shit out.
Yeah. Uh, so they arrange for a prisoner exchange because I think Cornwallis can see that from miles away that some of the British are being held prisoner, or
Mm.
so he thinks. So they arrange for an exchange. Ben Martin runs into the colonel here again
Great face off.
just before the exchange is about to happen, and this is where he makes that promise to the colonel that before the war is over, he's going to kill him.
Yeah. But then, like,
Um,
the villain becomes an even bigger villain here because he's like, "Oh, I remember you and that putrid little boy. Did he die?"
yeah,
And I'm just like, "Oh, dude, like talk about the the
He,
rules of
he was
war and like,
goating him.
ah,
But like again, he's not a true villain. He knew he was smarter than everyone else. He's like, if we kill Ben Martin, we win the war. If we can get Ben Martin to freak the fuck out, then we just gun him and his men down and we win the
yeah,
war.
mhm.
So it's the Shane effect from Walking Dead. He was ahead of his time. He was better than everyone else. He knew it.
yep.
Goated. Goated.
Yeah.
Cornwallis can blow him.
Um, so the prisoner exchange happens, but we see a little bit of trickery on Ben Martin's part. I wrote, "Ha! Ben used scarecrows as the fake redcoats."
Brilliant.
I mean,
Yeah,
great plan. So not only in this scene does he get his 19 guys back, he has the confrontation with the colonel. He gets his dogs back, and
yep.
he completely insults like everything British in the world, and then they get nothing in return because the the general or the lord or whoever he is, he also requested like his diary and stuff back too. He didn't get any of that.
Yeah.
General Lord Cornwallis,
Yeah.
the goat.
Yeah. But one thing that's discovered here by the British is, they find out who specifically is in the militia, and they're finding out where each of their families are.
Yeah. And I feel like
Um,
this is the part where any British person will be pissed, right? Because instead of just
yeah.
fighting the war, now they're
Yeah.
using their soldiers, and like
Well,
this colonel is going around and just lighting up everyone's
th-
family's house.
this is one of the things that happened. We're gonna get into the big thing that I think the people criticize the movie for, especially uh
So it's
British
poised
people.
though because the militia blow up their boats too the next night. They blow up the boats and they blow up supplies at Cornwallis's residence. So Cornwallis gives like private, like off the books approval for this guy to go rain fucking terror on the
Mm.
civilians. So like while I get if you're someone who's British and you're like, wow, that paints us in a poor light, that's the point. The point is like, no, the British would never do this. But this guy's a fucking dog. This colonel or general or whatever this dude was a dog, and Cornwallis couldn't keep him on his leash much longer, so he figured, fuck it, if you're gonna do it, go nuts. And then he even makes a side deal with him, like, yeah, you'll never be allowed back in Britain because that's not what we do. You'll have to
Mm.
stay in America. And he picks like a plot and all that shit.
In
So like,
Ohio.
yeah, woof. But like, like if you're a British person and you're looking at this like it's a fucking documentary, go fuck yourself. Like get over yourself. It's a movie. It's a movie with Mel Gibson. Come on.
Yeah.
Unreal.
um,
Anyway,
we see.
now I'm working shit out.
I think Ben Martin's family catches a break, even because they find out where Ben Martin's family is hiding. But I think the militia's ready for him there, and Ben Martin's family gets out okay. However, we see that the family of John Billings was not so lucky, and he didn't want to live with that, so he just offs himself right there in front of the rest of the militia guys because it's too much for him.
Yeah, that was a tough scene.
Great acting
Yeah,
right there. Brilliant acting.
Dude, between Mel, the Reverend, and Billings, like those three people in that one scene, like you could feel the tension. You could feel
yeah,
something was gonna happen. You just didn't know what, and then bam, crazy.
yeah. And then following one of the sadder moments of the movie is one of the happier moments of the movie because Gabriel gets married.
Yeah. Shotgun wedding, right?
Yeah, this wedding happened real fast.
But
Um,
yeah. I mean, it was a pretty cool moment. So like they're trying to throw like glimpses of light into like this really tragic and terrible story, right?
yeah,
So blossoming relationship, and like you have to remember, like this movie progressed pretty fast for us, but I think it was like because
Years.
yeah, because you measure the timeline because the one person, the slave that was signed over to serve, he kept counting down the months, and that's how like they were
hmm
progressing time. They were like because he would count how many months he had left until he was a free man.
Gabriel was in for a year before Benjamin Martin.
Yep.
And
yeah,
then they were in for about 6 to 8 months, I think, and then all of this stuff happened. So we're already
Yeah.
almost 2 years into
You
the
know,
war at this point.
and the
Yeah.
final war is October of the following year.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like the year that
78.
like the marriage happens, and it's in October that year. So
Yeah. So yeah, time is moving relative.
yeah.
But yay, marriage, yeah, weddings. They did
Woo!
it.
And she gets
Yeah,
her necklace.
Hoping for a long, happy
and
marriage.
the final day of the American Revolution was September 3rd, 1783. Um,
Yeah.
yes, I think this movie took place say we said 2 years. So I probably 17. This is well before I think the American Revolution ended, but again, I mean, it's not entirely historically accurate. It kind of like either not at all, either pure fiction or like pieces. Like I think the last battle is like two battles pieced together. Not an entirely accurate picture.
Mm.
Um, um, One other thing we see here that actually that I thought was a pretty powerful moment was that he has 7 children, and 6 of those, well, one of them, unfortunately, one of them died. So those children that are left alive at this point, are pretty happy to see him when he does show up, except for one child, who I think her name was Susan, who can't stand her father.
Yeah, she
Uh,
won't
you know,
talk to him.
yeah. So we see this is a pretty powerful moment. I think I really like this part was like there comes a point where he's leaving off to go to another battle or something like that, and she can't not acknowledge her father anymore. So I think this is a pretty important moment in the film. Definitely emphasizes the point of family. I think that we mentioned at the beginning here.
Yep.
Yeah, I really like this part.
And then he promises that he'd come back and all
Yeah,
this other stuff. So, um, yeah, I thought that was a really strong moment too. And like I said, like here's this huge the wedding, and then she starts talking to him again, and then we just know something's gonna happen, right?
yeah,
Uh, and this is when the new bride and her family go back to town, right? And they get rounded up by the British soldiers, and this is
yeah.
quite possibly the worst part of this
This
movie.
this is the part where I think the one of the most heavily criticized moments of the film happens here. The colonel shows up to that church,
He rides his
uh,
horse right into the church.
right into the church, and he he's like asking for information about these guys in the militia, and one of them rats out the other, and they tell him the information, but the colonel is so ruthless that he decides to burn this church down with the people inside. Um, yeah, this is the big moment in the film. I think that's really criticized as being inaccurate, and the British would never have committed this atrocity back then. This isn't
But
accurate at all.
technically, it wasn't the British, right? It was the trader from South Carolina. It was the
Uh,
trader
well,
Wilkins.
so the colonel gave the order to him to pretty much be like, "Are you on my side or are you not on my side?"
I mean,
Yeah,
isn't that really just Hollywood creating the drama, right? Like, how dramatic was it when he handed him the torch, and you're like, "There's no fucking way this guy's gonna kill his neighbors, right? Like, there's no fucking way he's gonna do it,"
And he
yeah,
and he
said,
did
and
it.
he pulled out the same line that Heath Ledger pulled out earlier, though. So like when they were killing the British as they were surrendering in the woods, he said, "There's no honor in fighting this way." He said that to the colonel too. He was like, "There's no honor in that," and then he
right.
just did it anyway.
I think that, like, if you're taking that and you're like, "Oh my god, this is blah blah blah," like I'm reading some of the
Oh
reviews.
my
If
god!
you're like, "Oh my god, like the British would never do," no shit. No shit. And you know what?
Fuck.
Benjamin Martin probably wasn't even a real person.
Yeah.
Gabriel
Yeah,
Martin wasn't a real person. This is all to build your hero's journey and your villain's journey.
And they
And
needed to make this villain be hated, and that
yeah,
this is it. This is the capstone of that
it.
hate right
I
here.
gotta say, I didn't think they were gonna show as much as they did. Like they didn't show people burning or anything, but it was like, as an adult, this is a little tough to watch because that's top 5 ways of dying right there. Because you don't die from the fire, you die from the smoke or people trampling you. Oh,
Yeah.
mm,
just terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was tough.
Anyway, yeah.
That was tough.
yeah,
And then we get into
yeah,
the crux of the bullshit. Now everyone's gonna be working some shit out.
yeah. So I mean, after this church is burned down, I think the militia gets into another running with the British, and the Reverend gets killed off here. Not
Well, they go
uh
to the church first, right? That's what starts the
Yeah, they go
skirmish.
to the town. They realize that all the
yes,
townsfolk had been killed.
They see the
All of them.
church is burnt down, and then Gabriel finds the necklace he gave his wife. And
Yep.
then Gabriel is full-blown Martin, and now he's got some shit he's got to work out. He's about to go Fort Wilderness on that fucking colonel. Killed his brother and now his wife. He's about to chop this motherfucker up.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and we see that Gabriel takes a shot at the colonel. And Gabriel is he's angry, there's no doubt about it, but we also see how naive he is too, because the colonel pretended to get shot,
Oh, he
and
got shot. It just
no, he got
wasn't. It
shot.
wasn't a fatal.
So
well, he
we're skipping
pretended to
over
be
the best
dead.
part.
He pretended to be dead.
The Reverend takes one, right? The Reverend
Gabriel.
takes one, loads his gun while he's preparing to take one for Gabriel. Gets shot,
Tosses it to him.
tosses it back. The Patriot tosses it back to Gabriel like a fucking badass dude. And then Gabriel, like he's straight out of a fucking Terminator, just looks and bang, gets him right in the shoulder.
No, I
Gets
think it
him
was
in
like the lower abdomen thing. His
he
dad gets him in the shoulder later.
he got him good, and he went for the Fort Wilderness dicing. He pulls out his little butter knife. Thing was like this big, so he was gonna have to get in
Well,
them guts.
let's not forget that he pulled that out of a dead body that he just stabbed with that knife.
Fucking
Right.
it was like out of the like I watched that to this day, and I think Terminator, because like that's what it was. It was badass. And then he walks up to the colonel, and the colonel's laying on a sword and puts it right through Gabriel.
He's ready for him.
Yeah, the colonel got shot, but not fatally. He pretended that it was fatal, and he takes down Gabriel Martin.
Gets him.
That's 0-2 for Ben Martin's kids.
2 for 7 if you're keeping track for the colonel.
Yeah,
his bingo sheet is filling up fast.
So yeah, Ben Martin is crushed at this point, but we see here that the militia is ready to stand, stronger than it has, and it has the French backup now, which is good for them. Yeah, and this is where we get into the final battle of the movie. We see that like kind of like the theme of the movie, where like the militia would just get overrun by the British, at various points, if it was a direct fight, if it wasn't just the militia trying to pick them off, like hiding in the woods, like things like that. In direct battle, like they were getting squashed, like for the most part. We kind of thought we were seeing that here. It seemed like the militia was going to be defeated, but they tricked the British by pretending that they were retreating. And the British at this point end up getting overrun by this newly formed army.
They run into they group up with the initial army. I can't remember the guy's name from the beginning. They group up with what's his name? Who's Chris Cooper's character's name? They group up with him.
Harry Burwell.
Yeah, so they group up with him and his coalition, and the coalition's waiting as the militia pretends to retreat and run away. The British are like, no, hunt them down, kill them all greedy warmongery.
Cronwall being,
and then
big swinging dick.
Yeah, and then Cooper's just waiting. Colonel Harry Burwell is just waiting with his entire coalition and military arm with cannons and everything, and they just fucking push him back. And then we get the showdown we were waiting for.
Yeah, we had Henry Burwell played by Chris Cooper.
Yeah.
By the way, can I just say, like, the Martins were exquisite shots. Like, I don't think any one of the Martins missed a shot, including the 13-year-old, this entire movie. And they're using the most, like, unaimable weapons in history. And all of them are just, like fabulous. So, like, you see Benjamin Martin has a perfect shot, and there's nothing in his way, and it's just him and the colonel. And then there's an explosion that happens behind him to like rattle him a little bit during the shot, and then he misses. He hits him, but he misses what he wanted to do. It's a pretty good build up.
This fight had so many limitations because of its time frame. Like they couldn't pull off much, right? Like, okay, I missed a shot, so now they got to do a little bit of hand-to-hand combat, but like you got to think, right? The fight has to be quick because like you said, these guns are going off that no one can fucking aim. There's cannons going off. There's
They're in the middle of a
cavalrymen.
battlefield,
Yeah.
surrounded by soldiers.
Yeah, there's this fight had to. I think it was a really well done fight because it had to be short and quick.
But
Like they
you know
couldn't
what I'd
drag it
say about
out.
that? Like it's purely cinematic, this fight, right?
Yeah,
Because
Yep.
like in a real battlefield, they see like someone
they're both
struggling in
dead.
a fight against a colonel. Like six soldiers are jumping on this guy to kill him, right?
Dude, a cannonball went off 2 feet behind Mel Gibson. Yeah, they're both fucking dead. Like he didn't
I
get
know.
rattled by
I,
like just a
dude, I was
grenade
gonna say
far
that too.
away.
Like a lot of times in like the marching formations, there's like a cannonball that goes off 3 feet in front of the marching line, and everyone is just standing there fine. And I'm like, that's probably not how I would go.
No,
No.
no. And they even show like the path of a cannonball at one point, taking some dude's head off, and it's like,
Yep.
yeah, yeah, you can't then later in this movie show me a cannonball hitting right next to Mel Gibson's feet and him not get hurt. Like you can't.
Yeah,
So is this movie a documentary? No, but we ain't here for fucking documentaries.
it's a great entertain. Like the movie is very entertaining.
Yeah. The satisfaction you get from Ben Martin shoving the American flag through the British fucking red coat is almost unparalleled. Like
Yeah,
it's orgasmic. Like he
it's
just
good. It's good.
he's down. He fought hand to hand. He lost, and then he's just sitting there. And again, no fucking shot this happens in real life, but like the colonel's got the sword up over him, swings it, and Mel Gibson just turns his head, spins with the American flag, and shoves it through his fucking gut. And then he ends it with the best action line he could have. My son were better men. Blah.
Yeah,
It was so
great
satisfying.
movie. Great movie.
If that was
I
Avengers, I would clap.
Yeah. So I will say it's been a while since I saw this movie. I also had the Mandela effect in this movie.
Go on.
The entire time, me going into it and everything, I thought Benjamin Martin had died during this movie. So I had the Mandela effect. I was like, when's he gonna die? And then I was
Okay.
like, and
nah,
he didn't.
he's gonna
He
bang
didn't
his
die.
sister-in-law.
Yeah. So, well,
Yeah. I never thought he died. I always knew he took down the colonel. Yeah, it was. I agree. It's definitely a satisfactory ending. Um, excuse me.
bless you.
Yeah, the colonel ends up falling for his own trick here, just like he did with Gabriel, which was neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Oh, I
the
didn't even think
movie.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So then, it ends up. The movie ends on, a positive note. They're rebuilding a house, um, pretty much, and yeah, and that's the end of the movie.
Yeah. It wraps up really well. They go over Cromwell's surrender. The French are bombarding their base from the sea. Like it's really freaking like the ending of this
Yeah,
movie is really cool. Whether it's
yeah,
historically accurate or not, who cares? It was really cool. Great way to wrap up a story. Uh,
yeah,
enjoyed this one for sure.
yeah. So that's pretty much the plot and what goes on for the Patriot. Before we sign off here, we're going to share each of our quick reviews and our rating of the film, each from our own letterboxed account, which will have links in the description, so that way you can follow us on that. Keep track of what we're watching. Because we're not just watching what we're talking about here. We're watching other things too. Yeah, so definitely follow us on that. Um, quickly here, I will share my thoughts that on Letterbox and the rating I gave it. You can follow me, John Jon. You can't beat the classics. I have YCBTC. That's my account name. The Patriot for me, 3.5 out of 5. And I liked this movie. obviously. Very quickly, I wrote, "This is probably my favorite film adaptation depicting this time period. While you do feel the length of it, the film at least does enough to keep you invested. It also bears the painful reminder that a talent like Heath Ledger is no longer with us now." Roland Emmerich outdid himself with this film, despite its historical inaccuracies. And I know it shares some similarities to Braveheart, but I also love that movie. So
Braveheart,
that's
great point.
fine with
Yep.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you're gonna compare any movie to like a Braveheart or a Saving Private Ryan or anything like that, some of the other names that we brought
yeah,
up, like pretty good comparisons to have, if you ask me.
yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely up there for war movies. Like it's considered a war movie. It's got to be a top 10 war movie. Maybe not top 5, but
Mhm.
definitely top 10.
Yeah.
There's like so many other war movies are tough though because there's like so many. There's like the genre is so wide if you want to go war movies, but I
Yep.
could probably agree it'd probably be a top 10. Yeah.
All right. So on Letterbox, if you want to follow me, it's Bison Madness with a Z. Um, I did 4.5 stars. I think this movie is fucking. It is a classic. I think, like I said, it's a top 10 war movie. It's not a documentary. If you're looking for a documentary, not many war movies are that historically accurate. But it's definitely, you have Schindler's List, you have Saving Private Ryan. Somewhere in the mix, I think, is The Patriot. Um, it has love, it has war, and it has the Gibson. A nice retelling of the American Revolution through the eyes of militia, grounded and heartfelt, while also heartbreaking and sad. True balance of love and war. Instant classic. R.I.P. Heath. Gets right down to the point, baby.
Instant classic. Of
Right to
course,
the nitty gritty.
you would
I
say
think
that with your pick.
I think it's an instant classic because out of the '90s, I think it's if we're counting certain movies as war movies, I would argue it's right next to Gladiator on the top 10. So wherever you have Gladiator as a war movie, it's right next to that.
Yep.
Interesting.
And I think both of them are top 10, and I would make the argument for top 5 all-time war movies.
I mean,
The
Gladiator.
rewatchability of The Patriot is fucking incredible. It's 2 hours long, which is short for a war movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
You could watch the 3-hour cut because I think that exists.
It does.
Yeah.
The original movie was almost 3 hours, yes.
Yeah, I did not see that one.
It's not bad, but you're not missing much if you watch the regular 2-hour version.
Okay.
So then I'll go.
Yep.
My letterbox is Uber Smack. So UberSmack. I gave this movie a 4 out of 5. This movie is very good. The history of the events surrounding this movie are great pieces of knowledge, although the events surrounding this family are very fictional. The family is relatable, the tragedy is intense, the story is riveting. Mel Gibson delivers an inspired performance. The supporting actors all add a bit of flair to get you lost in the 1700s. I will say that the personal vendetta seems just a bit too aggressive, and the tragedy surrounding his family become intense, even though the entire country is surrounded by war. This is a movie you should see if you haven't. Braveheart with muskets.
Braveheart with muskets, yes.
Pretty much, yeah.
The movie should be retitled Mel Gibson Just Working Shit Out.
Working it out.
The
It's
character development is all right. I think everyone has their own hurdles they go through in this movie, but
Yeah.
honestly, just you're not there for that.
Mel
Yeah.
Gibson didn't look like he aged here too, because there's a 5-year difference between Braveheart and this film. He looks exactly the same.
I'm pretty sure Mel Gibson's almost looks the same now. He just has a couple more wrinkles.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the
Mel
alcohol.
Gibson,
It's keeping him where he is.
he's he looked kind of thin, lean, like maybe jacked a little bit. Now he just looks like a fucking keg with limbs, like not in a bad way. Like he looks like a stocky, short
Yeah.
fire hydrant. like Like, that's the only thing that's changed. I watched that cop movie with him and Vince Vaughn, and I was like, Jesus Christ, I hope I look like that when I'm 70. Like, oh God.
Yeah, it's tough for me to picture him that age because I always see him as like this, like, you know, in something like The Patriot or Braveheart.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, wasn't what? Correct me if I'm wrong. His next film was The Passion of the Christ.
Yeah, that was.
yeah,
Talk about working some shit out.
you know,
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah, and, like this was like
right.
when he went through like the anti-Semitism and all that other stuff. Was
Yeah, you want
Yeah.
to talk about painting a villain,
You,
alienating people.
you know, guys, I think we might have missed out here because we could have watched The Patriot with Steven Seagal.
1998 classic.
The 2 years before this movie, there was another movie called The Patriot
I
with
don't even
Steven
think
Seagal.
I could stomach that, if I'm honest.
Oh no, that's got to be just so bad, like
What's
not
the
even
ratings on that
watchable.
one?
That I see letterboxed here, like the average rating is like a 2 out of 5.
That's a little high.
I mean,
It's so bad.
two's a lot for a Seagal movie, though.
An entirely different plot than this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Anyway.
I can't promise when we'll watch a Steven Seagal film. Maybe sometime down the line. Not during this season.
I don't know.
I know that.
Support the Patreon if you want to see Steven Seagal movies.
Oh Jesus, yeah.
Yeah.
Eventually we'll
your
dive
money where your
down that
mouth is.
rabbit hole. But
Steven
yeah,
Seagal month.
yeah. Anyway, that's our thoughts on George's pick, 2000's The Patriot by Roland Emmerich. That's a classic in his book. Definitely a good movie all around. From the three of us, we think. That about wraps it up for this episode. We'll have another episode, coming soon. We're circling it back now to one of my picks for the next episode. Be sure to stay in the loop with us on when that comes out. Follow us on Instagram. Support the Patreon. We have a TikTok. We're posting clips from episodes that we're doing. A lot of good stuff out there for you to check out. Definitely do so. Support the podcast. Yeah, and we'll see you guys. We're going to keep the train rolling. We'll see you guys for the next episode.
Bye.
Later.
Goodbye.